Rolling Tin Fist.
Hello, men. I wanted to do a video on a topic that I came across a while ago. It's based on a podcast on NPR's show called On Point, called Middle-Aged Men Need More Friends. I will find the link and put it in the description, but I'm not going to talk really in depth about the podcast itself, but really the sentiment. And the sentiment is the idea that with all of the sacrifices men make, which are rarely spoken of in mainstream forms of media, they eventually lose touch with those important male friendships that likely they cherished, if not thrived, because of in their earlier years. And this can happen through a number of ways as a man transitions into middle age. Most typical is the man gets married, he gets subjugated, or becomes a white knight, or some combination of the two, or rather somewhere within the range of the two. And to put it in more general terms, for the most part, middle-aged men are usually supporting a family or supporting children in some way or the other, whether you're married, whether you're divorced. More often than not, a lot of your efforts aren't towards yourself solely. So you're either paying child support, you're either paying alimony, or if you're married, you're basically the breadwinner, you're the provider, you're the mule. And so if a man isn't paying attention, a number of things can happen. One of those things is that he can be convinced that it's his job to be a mule, and worse, that there is some honor in being a mule. And again, that's a lot of the things that you'll hear about, in the mainstream atmosphere. A man should be proud. A man is not a real man unless he's sacrificing for his family. But it doesn't ever occur to anybody that the reason he's able to provide, the reason that he may have that energy and love for his family is because he has that camaraderie with other males that help build him up and support him when he needs it. And so what the article did talk about a bit is basically how their findings that as these men progress, they're more susceptible to depression, disease, and even suicide. And so I've been thinking about that a lot myself, being technically middle-aged. I think back to all the friends I had in high school, guy friends, just tons of them. We'd either be playing chess together, or, video games on the computer, playing board games, fooling around in the park, playing basketball. Tons of them, tons. Now, I'm not saying that each of these friendships were very close. Sometimes it was just somebody I saw in school every day that, we maybe shared a class, or other kids in certain neighborhoods that when I'm in that neighborhood, I hang out with them. But there were tons of them, and it was great, It was just great to have that friendship, that camaraderie. There was some drama and you needed some backup, call up your buddies. They were there. But over the years, as we grew into our 20s, went to, school, those of us who went to school, some of those who went to the military, like myself, our paths start to diverge as we enter young adulthood. And by the way, some of that is natural, right? That you go different paths. But more often than not, particularly for men, if they get kind of tied down in terms of family, or they choose that path and they're going on autopilot, what can happen is that either if they're more of a blue pill Mandana man, they're so happy to get that permanent pussy that they pretty much jettison anything that comes before that, or comply to their spouse or girlfriend until they're pulled in so deep, all they can do is hang in there and comply with whatever arrangement they find themselves in. So that may be a man that ends up with 3 kids, a wife who pretty much runs his day and makes him feel guilty if he's not, being a good man and all that stuff. To other men who maybe on the white knight side have been convinced that, it's their job to, to be the provider, to be the breadwinner, to be the champion. And they're told, be a man, stop hanging with your friends. You have responsibilities now. and then they slowly jettison those things. Meanwhile, their female counterparts are encouraged to have girl time and female time and hang around their friends and girls' outings, right? And their man is kind of, you go make the money, and, if you're happy, unhappy, whatever. And by the way, pussy that you came in the relationship for anyway, you're going to get even less of it, while you continue to do more of what you bring to the table. And eventually those men become isolated. And that's typically fine for them, as long as they're getting some semblance from that woman or family or children that they signed up for. The problem is when they no longer get that. For example, divorce, a death in the family, the woman just decides, oh, I'm not doing my bit anymore, but you need to do your bit. And or the woman just gets bored of the guy, like she has other things to do because she has an outlet, and because the man hasn't kept up these relationships or put any effort into them, he finds that maybe the half dozen friends that used to be around all the time 20, 25, 30 years later are gone, and he doesn't have those skills anymore on how to maintain or connect with those relationships. If it goes too bad, such men can end up, like I said earlier, depression, substance abuse, suicide, and what have you. And so, as I reflect on this and post the red pill, I'm happy that I had the good sense to, decide who wanted to stick around as a friend, who wanted to be a friend, and who we both had mutual compatibility, and really try to maintain those. Obviously, you can't force somebody to be around if they don't want to, but from my experience, every man knows one or two guys that they can reach out to or have a conversation with, even if it's just, a lunch every month, or, whatever the case may be. And I always, encourage married friends of mine who basically are trapped in the matrix. Oh, we should get together. I said, look, I'm here. You know where to find me if you want to do something. But I found that just having some key friends you can talk to, and they can be different levels, like I said. Those friends that you can really open up to, they respect and trust, and you have their confidence, right? And you can open up with them without fear of drama or your emotional safety. Friends like that, all the way down to, again, just maybe somebody, I have a, acquaintance like that, a guy I met through like one of my kids' birthday parties, right? And, we just kind of hit it off, and 2 years later, we have lunch about every month. He pays sometimes, I pay the other time. We meet for about an hour, and that's it. But, we just clicked, and, we're both getting what we need. And he's, older than I am, and he's married and has a millennial daughter, and, it works. And so, in closing, this article is important because it's the first time I've seen in recent times, it's starting to come to the surface that, with all our push for feminism and women's rights and pay equality and this, that, and the third, the men are still there, right? Half of the population of the planet is still male, and a significant chunk of that is middle-aged. And if you do want the society to continue in any sort of viable way, the needs of these men will need to be addressed on some level. And I think that is also part of why, the manosphere is continuing to grow and get more notoriety, because society is trying to realize that, hey, particularly I think with the election, the U.S. election of Donald Trump, presidential election of Donald Trump, that, hey, part of that is a wake-up call that with all the push for, again, gender equality, women's rights, rights for minorities, the archetype of, the white male has been forgotten, right? And there's been a reprisal on that, and I'm not just white men, all men are saying, hey, we're here too. And so I'm just here to say, look, I hear you. And, I feel you, man. And again, try to find that one or two men that you can connect with. Take care.